How you doing, Scotty Bear? Back with another video. This video on the comparison between taking Ubers and buying a car. You may be in this exact position. You may rack up hundreds of dollars a month to Uber. You may be an entrepreneur. You may be trying to figure out in your mind what the cost would be versus one versus the other. I recently, I am curious about this question also because the costs are very close. Actually, I've looked at a few costs. One would be car ownership, the other one would be car rental, and then the third would be just going on Uber. Of course, going on Uber is the least convenient because you have to pay for the trip out of your pocket right at the end of the trip. So you're like, yikes, did I really need to do that? Actually, which kind of is an interesting point of how much careless and, driving we really do. And should I buy a car? I mean, I pay all this money to Uber, and shouldn't I at least benefit from the car ownership experience, be able to have the freedom of going anywhere I want to go and, and when I want to go there. So I'm going to look at these costs, and how I'm able to come up with these costs is basically this. It is July. I'm trying to get my taxes done. So I, at the end of the year, am able to come up with these figures, and I was surprised. I was surprised because I got away from my car and was, traveling and whatnot. And so it was mostly okay. But when I was, here in Nevada, or, picking up friends or friends picking me up, it began to start to think to myself, I can buy a car, and I did. And this is that cost. I had a storage of stuff in the Pacific Northwest that I needed to get back to Nevada. The costs were not cheap, and I figured the best chance to retrieve this cost was to go ahead and just buy a car, put the shit in the car, and drive it back to Nevada. Like I had said before in this video, I had constantly been thinking about the cost of Ubers and transportation, and it's high. And it's also high to own a car. I mean, car ownership is definitely up, even when you try to get the most value out of it, and that would be just buying the car cash outright. Because again, at the end, you could just sell the vehicle. But I purchased a vehicle, and actually it was right at a year at this point. The registration is about to expire. I have the whole entire cost for the 11 months of ownership. I'm going to try to get a better grip on this camera. And basically what it amounts to is, without going into a whole lot of detail, was what you hope to do is buy a car, get some reliability out of it, get some miles, and then be able to benefit from the car ownership experience. I'll be honest, car ownership isn't the same value as it used to be, I feel like. And I feel like cars between that, remember when, I don't know about remember when, but you buy a used car for $1,000 to maybe $3,000, depending on your exact budget. And you would get quite a bit of value from car ownership. It would be fairly inexpensive and allow people that, need to, have some good transportation. And this is really the best way to go about it, because if you start to finance used cars, you really need for it to go a long, long way for you to be able to realize some benefit from that. I mean, if you go out on a 5-year note on a car, you're going to have some problems and some repairs to compound, your cost, certainly from car ownership. The value of car ownership is quickly going away. I have the figures here in front of me. I bought a decent used car, what I figured would make the trip to get my stuff home. It would be a pain in the ass to buy the car and then have problems on the way. So I tried to buy a car that could do that, or at least have minimal repairs. And that was one of the beautiful things about this. So I purchased the car. I got basically 11 months of reliability out of the car. I did not have no breakage. I did put some money into it. I put about $1,000 into the car, probably more. And that brings me to another point. I had to replace a window from the car being broken into and lost a bunch of shit in the car. So that was also a pain in the ass. Also, car insurance and registration. I paid a lump for the car, the registration, all that good stuff up front. And then the taxes and all that good shit too. And what it amounted to, I don't want to go through all the costs because you already probably got an idea of most of the costs anyway, is this. It cost me literally $500 a month to own this used car. And, again, it's mine. I could sell it and try to recoup some of the money. I don't know that I'd be able to get fully what I got for it. The car was in pretty decent shape, but it's still $500 a month, and that could have been a lot more. I mean, you buy a used car, actually $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Many of the cars I looked at were pretty poor. I drove this car. I was like, seems pretty good. Definitely needed some things, but was a real trooper. Got me the reliability that I needed and wanted to get from the purchase. So I was able to capitalize from that. And if you think about, $500 a month on Ubers is basically 20 or 25, $20 trips a month. I mean, literally, there's 30 days a month, and you can take 25 trips for $20, give or take. I mean, some Ubers are 12, $16, and then of course some Ubers are 25, 20, $26 and beyond. But it's an interesting equation, in comparison back and forth. It is getting very close. That's why, car ownership is going quite down. The main thing I would say about this in particular, and my experience overseas, is the United States is still very reliant on vehicle ownership. Our our cities are not as compact as many of the other places I've been. Even places like Tijuana are incredibly easy to get around with public transportation. United States, there is, of course, better hubs and areas where it's easier to get around, but the United States still struggles with good, adequate public transportation to make things seamless. It's close, but it's indeed not that great, and that's in comparison to Philippines, Tijuana, China. These are maybe even, China being on par with the United States, to third world countries where you would think that they would have these type of problems, in fact, do not. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I would probably, if I had to do all over again, I'd probably stick with the Uber. Having the car is more problems than the price tag that goes along with car ownership, including tickets and all these type of things. And I think that it's not a great investment anymore. Thank you for watching my videos. Have a wonderful Tuesday.